So good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us to this is, I guess, our second annual online developer summit, although it feels like a bit more than that, like maybe the fourth or fifth, but I'm pretty sure it's only the second. So hopefully you're all well rested and will have lots of questions for us. So as Jonathan says, this is primarily going to be a question and answer panel about the Roku ad framework, which, colloquially we call this RAF. But there should be a link to our Slido forum where you can submit questions to the moderator. I think Jonathan either has already shared that or will share that link in the chat. And then at the end of this presentation, we'll throw up a QR code. So you can ask anything you'd like to have our panel try to get answered for you. So, but before we get to the questions, so we're going to cover a little overview of what's new in RAF over the last year or so. And then you've also probably heard a bit about our ad watermarking initiative from other presentations that you've seen at the summit. But we wanted to kind of put in a little plug, present a slide about other benefits that you as a publisher can realize from integrating with RAF for ad rendering. So we're going to talk a little bit about client-side RAF benefits. Okay, so let's start by covering some of our highlights from RAF releases over the last year. So if you're watching our release notes, you probably have realized already that we didn't have a large number of developer-facing features in recent releases. We've done a lot of bug fixes and enhancements, but primarily this year has been a lot about focusing on ad watermark improvements and rollout this year. So we've improved this feature on all fronts, actually, and we'll talk a bit about that a bit more in a minute. So we say it's harder, better, faster, stronger, and it is actually all of those things with Watermark 2.0. We did add a new feature for publishers this year called Publisher Source Consent. So this is a new API that lets you add tracking opt-out to your channel that RAF will then combine that setting with the device and account LAT settings to try to respect user privacy. And then, as you're probably aware, the third category of things that we can talk about. So we deprecated a lot of our SDK1 interfaces this year. Basically anything that used SDK1 style rendering natively got removed from our SDK. But there are certain categories of apps like games that are still out there and still using RO screen for 2D graphics and input. And we wanted to let you know that we have your back. We realized there was a simple way that we could still allow monetization of these apps just by making a new ROSG screen in place in the app whenever you call show ads from a non-scene graph app. So we just went ahead and did that. There's no changes or republishing your app necessary. Okay, so let's talk a bit more about the Ad Watermark 2.0, now both leaner and meaner. So what does that mean? Well, the major change here is that we're adding a new encryption method for the watermark signature. And this is using an algorithm called ECDSA that substantially reduces the size of the signature and therefore, the watermark as well. And it also allows for much faster token generation. So what does that mean? Effectively, in the first generation of the watermark, we only had a single token that was shared across an entire ad playback session. And so now with Watermark 2.0, we can actually try to generate individual tokens for each individual tracking pixel because it's substantially faster. And then we also added some new claims to the token to make the watermark much stronger and more useful, excuse me, for discriminating against invalid traffic. And obviously, things like ad fraud is always a concern, both for Roku and for you, our publishers. So anything we can do to make those improvements, that's something we're trying to really focus on with the watermark. So the goal here is to protect the value of ad inventory on the Roku platform, both for us and for you, our channel partners. All right, so let's go to publisher source consent. So what exactly does this mean? So sometimes this is also, we call this in-app LAT or limit ad tracking. So this is just an extension of the device setting that lets channels give you a way of letting your users opt out of ad tracking from within your app. So you might have some custom UI that gives whatever legalese you want to provide and gives the user an option of opting out of ad tracking. And this gives you some additional control that's not just based in the device. So there's a new API. It's called Set Limit Ad Tracking, and it takes a Boolean value. So obviously you set this true if the user has opted out. You set it false if they have not opted out. And then we combine that with the device and account settings to make sure that all of the tracking macros that RAF uses and replaces in our ad requests and tracking pixels respects all of those settings. So when users opt out, we switch the RITA, the Roku ID for advertising, to an untracked, basically a short-lived RITA that lets them still benefit from frequency capping so that they don't see the same ad over and over again, but still respects their data privacy choices, which of course is very important. Right. So those are kind of the features for RAF that we've rolled out over the last year. But we wanted to talk a little bit about something that we've promoted this in the past, and all of the goals that we previously talked about are still relevant today. So one of the things that we've tried to provide with ad rendering and RAF is to give publishers an easy on-ramp to new and innovative and engaging ad experiences that create interest for users and can also boost ad revenue. So we offer built-in support for a pretty wide variety of interactive ad creatives. Both, we have our own Roku interactive ad units, and then we also support Brightline and Innovid natively in RAF. And the list of interactive ads is constantly growing. This is a very active growth area in our ad ecosystem. And then the second thing that we've already talked a bit about is ad watermarking. So using client-side RAF right now is the only way you can get benefit from the new watermarking technology. And this is something that we see as essential for protecting the integrity of our ad ecosystem. And if you fire pixels outside of RAF, then we don't have any ability to watermark it. So you wouldn't get any benefit from that. And then the last thing we wanted to talk about is UX consistency. So, this is something that we've talked about before, and we still want to promote. So we understand publishers wish to have ad customization options, but we still want to focus on end user ease of use and consistency of experience. So that's always been something that Roku has seen as a differentiating factor from other platforms, and we want to continue to provide ways to improve that, both for our end users and for our channel partners. So finding ways to improve those is something that, we're always working for. And this is actually something that you guys can help us with. So, we want to provide better ad UI in our platform. This is sort of a promise that we've had for a number of years now. But we also want to take into account the needs that you have for customization options. So, we would definitely invite you to reach out to us, either through your partner management contact, or even, I think Jonathan sent out a questionnaire earlier. We might do a follow-up questionnaire where we might ask for, feedback. This would be another area that, we would definitely invite feedback from you on. So any requests and suggestions for how we can better accomplish that goal, achieving more consistent UX while also giving you the customization options you need, we're absolutely open to that.
All right. So first question comes from Nathan Street. When using server-side ad insertion for live video streams, is client-side ad reporting through RAF required in all cases?
This is about application of the watermark, and that was covered. But yes, we are firing ad trackers for all ads through RAF, whether Roku's serving those ads or not. So it doesn't matter who your ads provider is, we would still want there to be that sort of client-side dispatch through RAF so that watermark can be applied.
Cool. All right. Alejandro Gutierrez has a question. How can we custom the buffering screen and the ad container? For example, adding buttons as YouTube channel does.
Can answer that one too. So there's a lot of concern with obstruction of ad video happening. And that's the fundamental reason that Roku doesn't allow overlays to appear on top of the ad's experience when RAF is rendering ad video. There are some customization options for buffering and the wording there, but for the most part, it leaves some to be desired. And Roku's aware of that. We're in the process of scoping out additional customization options. And I don't have a lot of detail on that, but if you do have some flats, if you have some sort of design ideas, please submit those to us. It is in the process of being vetted, and we'll take your designs into consideration and be in communication about when we anticipate that we will have some additional customization options in RAF.
And actually, I would piggyback on that response a little bit. Like, this kind of points to my previous point about consistency of user experience. You know, we know that there's requests out there to duplicate features that are done in other channels. We would like to do that. If we're going to do that, we would like to do it in a way that's, you know, consistent across channels, so that users know what to expect and how it works. So that they don't see a variety of different user experiences across different channels, and they're confused about what happens when they press the play button or press OK in a certain scenario. So anything like that you see a need for in your channel, we would try to find a way to support, but we would try to do it in a way that does provide some consistency, right? So we would like to ideally implement that within RAF, and then provide configuration options for the channels to add those custom UI elements.
So, okay, this one's like two different questions. Are you planning on adding support documentation for RAF implementation within SSAI? So I would say that's one question, and we already have that. There's a link that we can provide that shows, we're calling them adapters, but really it's code samples that show how to work with common stitching providers. And if you don't see yours listed there, just reach out to us. Most of these are the same. It essentially is listening for markers within the stream and passes ads metadata to RAF, so tracker dispatch can happen at the right time, or ads overlays. We even support interactive ads and server-side ad insertion sort of scenarios. So lots of options there. There's a lot more detail at the link I provided. The second part of this question is around tracker dispatch server side, and that's not supported. We don't want server side tracker dispatch. So that, as we covered earlier, trackers should be dispatched through RAF so that we can apply the ad watermark and do our fraud prevention.
Let me unmute myself. I'm not able to stop the ad player task using the stop command. The only way to stop the ad is pressing the back button. Why is it not allowed to stop manually?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Robin wants to take this, or Nas, maybe you would like to jump in here. No? Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm fine with trying to answer this. So,
go ahead.
Why would you want to stop the ad player? That would be my question to this. If someone asks, what are you trying to do? Right? I think if we get more detail about what the expected behavior is, maybe we can help come up with a solution. But in general, we don't want folks stopping the ad playback with a command, or the idea is that the ad would play through, and the user can hit the back button to exit it, but that's a user initiated activity, right? Why would we want to exit the ad outside of that, outside of a user activity? That would be my question.
Yeah, I think they may be alluding to skippable ads, right? Which we don't support.
So
That's right.
yeah, the reason that and why we say it's not supported is because advertisers don't want their ads to be skippable on the platform until they do. And then when they do, they will commission a custom skippable format, just like an interactive ad, that will be skippable, that is possible to do it, but with the explicit approval of the advertiser whose ad is skippable. So that's why it's sort of on lockdown here. It's a fraud concern. We don't want advertiser ads being skipped unless they approve it.
Yeah, and also I don't want to sound like a broken record, but in terms of consistency, back is sort of the standard way on the Roku remote that you exit out of Playback. If you provide something else, like if you showed a button that says press the up arrow to stop Playback, then users expect that anytime they press the up arrow that Playback will be stopped, and that's something that we definitely don't want.
Yeah, I would say it depends on the use case, and it needs to be described better, like what is the particular need to interrupt an ad. And I have heard this in the context of, for example, if the TV switched to another input, or if the TV was turned off, in the case of a set-top box. And to that, I would say the channel should focus primarily on suspending playback of the content. It's not really the ads are a small part percent-wise. So there has been this year, there has been some discussions, there has been in the news article about streaming TV on some platforms playing even when the TV is off. So to me, seems the focus should be on the content first, because you only reach an outbreak if the content, being a movie, is playing continuously. But we need to know more about this use case. We can work on it if it's depending on the situation. Over.
Yeah, if it's something, Raja Guru, if you want to put that in the developer Slack channel, or you want to ping your partner engineer or contact partner success with details on your use case scenario, then our team could dive further into it and examine the use case and go from there. All right. Is it possible to render our custom player UI with client-side ad stitching? With the current Roku doc for client-side ad stitching, I only see the Roku default player UI.
Yeah, it's expected that would be the only UI available. It's actually our channel launch requirement that you use RAF UI if you're implementing client-side ad insertion. So like we talked about before, we are scoping out additional customization options for RAF UI, and we're ready to receive any sort of suggested approaches that you have. So now's the time to please submit what you want the UI to look like, and we'll be kicking it around and trying to see if it's possible here. Like Doug said, this is about standardization and our ability to test UI function and make sure it's consistent across our platform.
And I would add, like, the client-side ad stitching is there's sort of a reason why we limited the UI, and that's because the playlist management turns out to be considerably more complex than like the ad insertion or SSAI cases. So providing new UI options would have to be done in a fairly limited way. Like, for example, if you allow trick play in a custom UI, there are certain rules around how it has to be sort of restitched on the fly, so that you can still stitch ads at the point that the user fast forwarded or rewound to. So we tried to hide some of that complexity behind a very simplified interface, and the limited UI is kind of an artifact of that limitation. But yeah, definitely we would like to extend that. We would like to make it a little more open and friendlier for custom UI. So this is a good opportunity, for you to reach out and let us know what you need or what you would like to see supported, and we'll try to make that happen.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
Yeah. So yeah, what is the recommended video ad format, quality, and length?
So we do have a document. I noticed that when I'm posting to the chat, it's not going to everybody, but we can follow up with this one and send over our creative guidelines. It's, RAF accepts media file with media files with different bit rates, with different sizes. And the thought is RAF will try to pick the correct one out of ads responses that fits the situation. So if the user's bit rate is really low, if they have a poor quality connection, RAF will choose a lesser quality creative to play back for the ad. So the recommended approach would be to include multiple qualities of media files within your ad responses. Now, I typically will see 15 and 30-second ads returned. That's an industry sort of expectation that those would typically be how ad pods are filled, with one of those links, 15 or 30 seconds. Roku has rules around the duration of ad pods. We want them to only be 2 minutes long. We want only 2 of the files that are played back there in one of those pods to be 15 seconds long, so the rest should be 30 seconds. Those sorts of requirements are in our documentation, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? You don't have to only play back 15s and 30s. You could play back a 60-second ad if your channel supports it. But yeah, we have rules, and then there's things that you can work within, like that 60-second file is something that, it's not required that you play those.
Yeah, I want to say something on this. I'm reminded that we have seen in the past some publishers wanting to get the best video experience. So they think, oh, I'm going to put a high bitrate, only high bitrate creatives, right? And unfortunately, what that results on, like people that don't have much experience with using VAST, and that you need to include different bit rates in the ads. And yes, the highest bit rate, the video looks best as a still image. However, when you're on connection with a low bit rate, what this ends up on some devices is rebuffering, the video getting stuck up. So like if you look, for example, if you look at the most common format of delivering between servers of describing ads is VAST, VAST. You would see that there is support for multiple bit rates, and that should be the case. And the ads, if you configure them from scratch, should always include a low bit rate. We do have a specification recommendation. I don't remember what it was, but just speculating, let's say 500 Mbps should be present, right? So in general, should include more than 1 bit rates so that the media player can choose accordingly. Media player, when playing video, it keeps track of the network conditions, and it can choose smart in the case of when using creative in MP4 or other single file format, or if it's in HLS, it is switching on the fly. So what we support by default out of the box is MP4 and HLS in different MIME types, but there is also an API that allows to add support for a different MIME type if that is being used in VAST and is being supported by the media player. Over.
Great. Actually, we have one of the Mark Pierce wants to has raised his hand. So I'm gonna let you to ask a follow-on question. Oh, actually, you put your hand down. So I'm gonna move on. Interactive ads. Aaron Spelling asks, these are only available for selected advertisers working with Roku. When can all users implement interactive ads?
Okay, so I'll take a stab at this one. Brightline and Innovid are two interactive providers that cater to Roku, and they provide the custom interactive formats that RAF supports. My understanding is that anybody can work with Innovid or with Brightline to have their own relationship and serve interactive ads. That's something that it doesn't have to be served by Roku to have interactive ads on the platform. Yeah, so I don't think that it is limited to selected advertisers necessarily. You can commission to have your own interactive ads built through Brightline or Innovid.
Yeah, so let me try for a general framing on this. I think the question, and I have seen this question asked before, which is like, can we write our own interactive ads? The answer is no, not within RAF, but RAF has three different supports interactive ads from three different providers. There is one from Roku, there is one from Innovid, there is one from Brightline, which are separate companies. And it doesn't, the advertisers don't need to involve. So this is a platform feature. Advertisers don't need to directly involve Roku if they are working with Innovid or Brightline. And in all three cases, the signaling for interactive ad is done through standard means, through vast VMAP, ways like, let's say, through companion ads. There is a limitation to the templates that are supported, or only templates that are supported by those three modules. But so there is no option for developers directly to write completely their own templates. But the situation is better than the question implies. Over.
Yeah. And I would add one thing to that. If you as a publisher are working with or want to work with an interactive ad vendor that isn't represented on Roku, that you feel has significant volume, and you think we should support, that's something that you can reach out to your partner management contact. We try to, we don't want to support things on RAF that don't have enough volume to generate significant ad revenue across a variety of channels. But if there's something out there that that you think that is an up and coming interactive ad vendor you'd like us to work with, please let us know about that.
Okay. Next question from Nathan Street. SSAI client-side reporting follow-up. What are the ramifications of a channel with live video and it uses server-side rather than client-side ad tracking?
Well, it's required that ad tracking be done client-side now. So I guess the ramifications would be that we would hold up channel launches if we detect that you're firing trackers server-side. We have reporting that we'll look at periodically and just see who our outliers are with that requirement. And then our point of enforcement is channel launch. So if you submit a build and it's not compliant, we'll hold it up and try to work with you on a timeline for when it can become compliant, or if you're working through issues, we'll help you with those.
Yeah, so the big picture thing here is that when you're using server-side ad insertion, whether be it live or AVOD, the choice of beaconing is up to the publisher and to the platform. There is, to my knowledge, there is no SSAI platform in which you cannot choose client-side beacon firing. Doing server-side beacon firing may be a convenience, but here on Roku, we are trying to building to strengthen the platform against ad fraud. So for that, it is necessary to do beacon firing client side and not server side. So we hope, we plead to you to move beacon firings client side, so we can include Roku Ad Watermark. Over.
Yeah, and just to add there, I mean, we've successfully worked with several publisher partners who were firing beacons server side and help them migrate to client side. This is not something that you have to figure out on your own, right? We're here to help, and so yeah, I mean, again, please reach out. Again, we're happy to work with you. We want to make it as seamless as possible.
Great. Next question. Can RAF resume ad playback during instant resume?
So I guess the question here relates to the instant resume feature in which you can interrupt a currently playing channel by just pressing home button on the remote control, and you return us to home screen, from which you can start another app, and later you can return to the previous app just by selecting the tile. In that case, as far as RAF is concerned, when this happens, this is equivalent to the user pressing back button during ad playback. The signaling is the same because de facto the viewer has left the ad. And in general, the expectation when this happens is that the channels will show effect. Most of the channels, my belief is, would behave like viewer has pressed back button and exiting from current playback back to the detail screen of the AVOD video. So RAF behavior to that is consistent. But if you have a use case that is different, that makes you wish for what it was asked in this question, let us know so we can consider it. But currently the answer is no, there is no automatic resume of video ad. Over.
Okay, we're gonna wrap up last. Probably gonna have to go through maybe the next two questions, maybe, and then we're gonna stop at around 9:40. When in pod ad stitching for client side ad insertion, I still see the considerable loading time buffering screen between the ads during mid-roll ads.
I would like to see an example of this. There shouldn't be. It should be seamless, maybe with half a second. There could be like a half a second blink between the ads, but no long time buffering. I would really like to see an example of this.
Yep. So for this one, if you need, the best thing to do is provide your code to us, via partner success ticket, your partner manager, or in that case, actually, you could ping us on the developer forum too. With that, might be a good place to do that, and then that way we can do a deeper dive into your scenario. All right, next question. How does RAF relate to direct publisher? Was there a change that direct publisher no longer supports RAF? Can you suggest an ad provider?
Okay, so I think RAF might have been taken out of context here. So RAF is a client-side library that helps with ads functionality. It's like a toolkit almost for developers to use to track ads, to request ads, to parse ads responses, that sort of thing. RAF is a part of direct publisher. And the way you might notice it is the availability of RAF macros in ad request URLs. So if you're requesting your ad server, you can put a macro in that URL that will populate Rita, for instance. But I don't think that's what you're asking here. I think what you're asking is about the Roku Audience Network, or what's now known as the Roku Sales Representation Program. And that is where Roku will serve ads to you via our monetization network. Now, there's a threshold of engagement that's required for Roku to participate with you in that. It's a certain amount of streaming hours and installs over a 3-month rolling period. So if you qualify for that, Roku's monitoring that sort of thing, and they'll engage you and ask if you would be ready to monetize with Roku. It is an obligation that you do some level of monetization if Roku reaches out to you there, but that's on a case by case, right? We'll work with publishers, and there's terms that are agreed upon between Roku and the publisher for ad serving. So until that happens, Roku's not going to serve ads to your app, whether it's a direct publisher app or whether it's a standalone BrightScript app. So Roku serving ads to you is independent of the RAF library, even though RAF is a part of it, of serving ads and tracking them. It's a different question than about the ad serving that Roku does. So can you suggest an ads provider? Yes, there's a set that we're aware of. We don't partner with any of these ads providers that I can send over, but it's some folks that you can reach out to and see about terms that they offer. Now, after the call, I can provide that list. So we'll connect afterwards. If anybody else is interested in that, please reach out to me at adsupport@roku.com or via this developer summit contact.
Okay, let's see if we can just quickly do this last question. Recently, Roku and Walmart introduced purchase through TV, where these are made possible through interactive ads and RAF. If so, is this available to everyone or only to selected partners?
Well, this is I mean, the question is a bit complicated the way it was asked. So the availability to this is available to all channels, but the ads will need to be routed through Roku for Walmart. The partnership is Roku Walmart. Inquire within sort of answer. Oh.
Perfect.
But the answer to the first part is yes. I mean, this is an interactive ad format that we supported. And we plan on expanding that, in the future. So this is another reason why we really want client-side ad